Is my volume okay?
Yeah,
I
you
don't have
Gucci.
to-
We are streaming, we are recording. Let's just let it run for a minute or two. We'll make sure we're not dropping any frames or anything. But we won't because it's YouTube, it's not Twitch, so therefore it is not fucked. And there,
Twitch
I
has
just
been
got
a
our
bit
video
strange
blacklisted.
recently. I've got 100 meg internet line, and I can't do 360 on Twitch sometimes.
It's the routing, bro. It's totally the routing. I had huge
Yeah.
issues with it myself as
It
well.
doesn't even matter the ISPs. Switch ISPs. Oh well.
It's how the signal gets to you. You know, it tends to get rerouted all over the place. I actually had to fight with Vodacom for like about 45 minutes on the phone with a technician to get him to change the routing of the line, because I got advice from Nathaniel because he's a network engineer. So I'm glad I know people who know what's going on, because then it got it sorted. So that definitely helps a lot. Look at this. We are live. We are. These pictures. Okay, these pictures are working. Hey, look at that. We got people. Hello, people.
Hey, homies. We're going to go see it. I want to see it live also.
Oh, you can see it live. Just make sure it's muted, because if you don't mute it, it'll feed back into the audio.
Echo.
Everyone in
You
chat
broke
will
everything.
die. We don't want anybody in chat to die.
You really don't.
Hey, chat. How's everybody doing?
How do I find it? I search for axtremes.
It's youtube.com/axtremes. How do I have comments from 3 people and 2 viewers? This makes no sense. But anyway. I guess we lost one already because we were super boring to open things.
I'm a new one, so that's okay. Hello.
You're a new
I'm a
viewer. You're watching
spectator to
yourself,
myself.
bro. Look at that. YouTube metrics are a little bit weird. Like, it only updates. It's on like a 30-second delay or something. So we shall see. 2 messages a minute. Okay. Well, hey, Jason Clearly, I'm also great. Thank you for saying hello. And he says he's all right, guys. How are you
But
guys?
you're
doing?
answering him now in the past, so
I know,
it
it's
doesn't
great.
make sense. He'll
He's
have
gone
to wait
already.
He'll
I mean,
be patient.
he might have been hit by a bus in the interim. How do we know? I mean, that's the extreme version of what could possibly happen, right?
That's pretty mean. I mean, we hope you're still with us, Mr. Jason Kelly.
Yeah, we do,
apologize for
actually.
Axtremes' negativity.
Well, I mean, I'm not even letting Profeci go ham on this stuff. You think I'm negative, you got to hear this guy. We took a photo yesterday at the ESL Africa studios, all trying to look happy, and there's like, everybody's like this facial expression, and there's Profeci.
Speaking of which, I saw that fly through of the studio, and I think that's such a great idea
To
sick, expose people behind the scenes to what it actually entails. Like, there's 400 humans sitting behind the scenes doing replays, doing PCs, doing production. It's a massive deal, actually, to get a production like that out onto the air. So I think, like, I wish there were more videos like that, just to show people, like, it's not just easy. You don't just play a CS game and it's broadcast over Twitch and that's it.
It isn't.
You know,
I think
huge, tremendous effort.
Let's talk about it a bit more in a second. I think we're going to hit our quick little intro, yeah? And we'll get it on video, and we'll talk about it a little bit, because I mean, you were at the ESL Africa studio, so you've kind of seen it as well. I think we should talk about it a bit. So we will go with the official intro now. CS greetings, CSGOers, and people who've been here from the very beginning, as well as APOC and Profeci. How are you gents doing?
Good, thank you.
That's fun.
Cool.
Great stuff.
I'm doing great. I sound like I literally just snorted a line of cocaine or something like that, but thankfully I did not. So you'll get
enthusiasm.
Yeah,
respect that.
Semi-coherent speech out of me. So this is great. This is CSGO Deeper, sponsored by Aperture PC. The sponsorship has now been lost now that I mentioned cocaine, and at the very beginning of this video I swore, so therefore the YouTube ad apocalypse will basically blacklist this video. Which is
great stuff. What a way to start. We've dropped cocaine references and swear words, and
I know, hey?
We just need to get something else on PC in there.
It's wonderful.
Yeah,
yeah.
We'll work on it throughout the show. We'll work on it. We'll be fine.
We'll make it happen, boys. We'll make it happen. So I think what we'll start with is let's start with ESL Africa so far. And I mean, by saying so far, we're actually into the very last week of the group stages. It's been 7 weeks, so 13 broadcasts so far. Thursday is the last evening of broadcast in ESL Africa before we have the finals at Rage. And yesterday we had Vibera qualifying in second place behind Limitless. That's in the North African Conference. And then also Bravado qualified last week. And on Thursday we're going to find out which one of Energy or Big Five will actually qualify. So let's start with you, Prof. Vibora qualifying the second North African team. Thoughts on that?
They took long enough. I mean, they literally they had to. No, I'm not joking, Chris. They had to win a game. They needed one game, one win or something from like what was it, third, fourth week or something like that? Because they played
like 4 games
up against
in hand,
Limitless.
1 win required.
It's just like okay, guys, all you need to do is win 2 games tonight. Nope, draw. No. Next night, okay, guys, you just literally need to win. Nope, draw. It's just like, come on, guys. At some point, you need to like just luck out into a win, and then last night,
just
dominance
to
on
interrupt you quickly. Does that speak to the closeness of the other teams there? Does that mean that the other teams are actually pushing them so that second spot was actually on the line, or does that mean that they were just not finishing off and qualifying?
I think it's got a lot to do with the way they play. Like, if you look at how they play, it's like if John QT and who's the other guy, Crystal Zik, don't go like absolute monster level, they just don't win. It's like it's crazy how much of a difference there is between those two players. Like last night, I think Crystal Zik and John QT had 30 kills in the first map, and Crystal Zik had 26, and the next highest on the team was like 12. And they won 16-14 or something.
How is that fair for them coming into the LAN? Where you need those guys to carry you. You know, what does that do for their team?
I mean, odds on they're going up against BVD. I mean, you've played BVD. Do you think that's going to fly? I mean, if they have a bad game,
like, it comes back to what we actually chatted about the last time I was on the show, where we mentioned that BVD is depth and Ian's depth, and we all discussed, we thought that BVD had a bigger depth because if Sonic's not performing, it can fall onto Jetri and it can fall all the way back down the lineup. You've got power players all around. So that worries me about what you're saying about if those 2 top players of their team don't step up to the plate, they're not performing. Whereas I think our teams, being Ian and BVD going to the finals, potentially have a lot of depth to their lineups.
Yeah, no, that is exactly what we're scared about, is that Vibora looks like they are absolute monsters on cash, but outside of that, like once they move off of cash, they look really, really shaky, and I think it's a worry for Vibora fans. I mean, they got 3 weeks now, I think, to sort it out, so they better get working, because if you're going up against BVD or EN, I mean, we've seen these guys multiple maps. They're decent at them, and it's not just about relying on guys walking and shooting heads.
Well, let's throw it to an analyst. Mike, you're an analyst of a lot of these games afterwards. I know you do both the commentary and the analysis. So what do you think? Do you think a team like BVD would actually go and do homework against these guys and work out that cash may be a weak spot? Or do you think that they would just take in their normal, like, oh, we'll beat them on anything, let's LM our weakest map?
That is actually a good question. I think BVD are probably confident enough in themselves that they might potentially just think that way. I don't think somebody like TC would let them, though. I mean, he's going to have done some homework there. I mean, TC's the guy who's going to go, crack the whip and say, hey guys, you will sit and watch this demo with me, sort of thing. So I think with a guy like TC, they'll go through it. If they didn't have him, maybe they wouldn't, but let's be
such
honest.
An advantage of having a dedicated coach to actually do that portion of the homework. Not just necessarily watch their demos, but also analyze their good and bad maps versus your good and bad maps just for the ban. Like, sometimes ban and pick can make a huge difference on the results of a game, especially the higher and higher tier CS you go. Mm-hmm. We've seen internationally the swings between different teams, a 16-4 and a 16-5, and that's 2 different teams on 2 different maps. It's actually, the map will is starting to make a huge difference.
Yeah.
The one thing that BVD will luck out on is that the North Africans pretty much auto-ban Nuke and Overpass. Both maps at BVD is not like... I mean, they don't play Nuke, and Overpass is
come
towards
on, South
the end
Africans. Just play Nuke. There's a gap. There's the gap. Wait, I don't know where the screen is, but there's the gap. Play Nuke, please. Just play Nuke. We'll practice against you on Nuke. Play us on Nuke.
But yeah, so like the North Africans don't play Nuke at all, and I don't think I've seen a North African game on Overpass out of 8 teams. Like it is either the first ban or the second ban after Nuke. They just don't play that map at all.
Quite interesting. I mean, it's funny because you know, as we like, I joke about Nuke, but it seems to almost be these region-specific map pools. Like we always used to joke that Dust 2 was a South African map, and incidentally, actually overseas, we've got the best stats on Dust 2 from what I remember from back in the day. But it's funny how certain regions like lock in and are good at certain maps. So I just honestly, I think Nuke would have been a massive gap for the South Africans. Like you say, if other teams ban it by default, if you're playing Nuke and you're playing Overpass, it just whittles down what their possibilities of elims are. So anyway, wasted opportunity.
That's a huge worry for me about the North Africans, that they tend to only play on 4 of the maps, you know, in the 7 map pool. And you know, looking at it, if it were say I mean, just throw it out there, if it were like a limitless Bravado final, I think Bravado would actually have a pretty big advantage with the map pool. The only problem is Bravado would want to play them on some of the maps that limitless look literally godlike on. So
yeah, I mean, the thing for me is like, if you are playing the game more than a hobby and you're playing 8 hours a day, and this is your job, and you're only playing 4 out of 7, aren't you doing 4 out of 7 of your job? You should probably be fired for that, or at least have a verbal written warning, and then sit down with your manager.
Getting savage right away, but you're right.
Let's have a chat about your performance. This is a performance review. You're only doing 4 out of 7 of your work. Go do your homework.
What were you going to say there, Sean?
If you look at the top, if you look at the very top end of the scene, it's often that like teams are very, very good on like 1 or 2 maps, and then the rest are like they're okay. But I do agree. I do think BVD needs to. I mean, especially given the way their lineup works, they are the super CT-sided team. So if you can abuse the fact that you can often start CT on Nuke, I think you can run up insane scores. And you know, working on the T side on Nuke, I think is good preparation to work on some of the other maps, because you can learn all the tricks and all this, and it's a nice pocket pick to have. It's like it's why DC is such a problem to have, because they have to ban Nuke against you anyway. Like, sure, they're going to ban it, but if it gets to that point where like, oh, damn, like we're really scared of their cache. Okay, let's ban cache. And it's like, okay, we're really scared of their Mirage. Ban Mirage. And it's like, oh, we're playing Nuke.
Yeah, you're leaving a possibility in the map pool in a match that you probably should win. But again, like you said, if you second guess yourself, you're leaving an option or a possibility for a weaker team to beat you just because you haven't put the time into strengthen that map pool. So to me, a stronger team should be stronger on almost every map. But if you are leaving like the North Africans three maps out the map pool, you can get a bad draw and lose a game that you really shouldn't lose.
Yeah, especially because if you are banning those maps, right? Like especially for the North Africans, they ban Overpass and they ban Nuke, right? That's basically playing into the entirety of BVD's map pool. So if BVD's better than you on those maps, you don't have like a chance to like, oh, I'll just pick Nuke knowing BVD never picks it and then beat them on that map. So it's like it's going to be a really, really rough situation for the North Africans. Like I personally I love Overpass, so I think
love
it's going to be
Overpass. What a cool map! I just think it's so exciting. So many cool angles.
I do know that ESL finals are best of 5.
Yeah.
So in theory, it would be what it would be. It would almost certainly be a Nuke ban from BVD side, and then knowing the North Africans, likely an Overpass
ban, and then you play those. The interesting thing for me on the best of 5, which is fascinating, is that you basically take out one, they take out one, and you play the rest in theory. So the nice thing about that is that generally you'll just take out your weak map, right? You'll play your strongest pool of 5, but it becomes quite interesting because to me overall, then the better team should win overall. Because there's fairness. I mean, what are the chances that the first 3 maps in a row are going to be a map that they're the best, they're better at, and then the close one in that particular order? It's probably not going to happen. So to me, it's I love watching the best of 5s. It was a bit tedious, and I think generally, it'd be lovely to see some stats. Like, let's pull up 30 best of 3s and 30 best of 5s and look at the teams. And the chances are that the best of 3s and the best of 5s will even out to the same score. The chances are if you're going to beat them in a best of 3, you would have beaten them in a best of 5 anyway. But it's a really nice like game of fatigue. It's almost like test match cricket.
Yeah.
Some people think the teams could be settled in a one-day match, which I kind of agree, but it's almost a different format of Counter-Strike to me. The game actually changes. It almost slows down like a test match, if that makes any sense.
No, it does.
Having played in both.
Like best of 5, you guaranteed to find like the best team in the world. Best of 3s is like there is still that small hope that like a team can throw an upset, but in like a best of 5, the best team is clearly winning because you have to win on 3 of the 5 maps. So
I agree, and
if it goes to all 5,
is a real
still
thing.
no.
Absolutely. So
it definitely is going to be fun.
yeah, chat. I'm being rude in chat. So if you want, you guys want to have a look, I won't mention it for the sake of the video.
Wait, I've got it open. Let me just switch to that
But
screen.
anyway,
Let's have a read.
so I mean, we've got
This is fun.
Fabora and Limitless from North Africa. They're 100% confirmed. 100% confirmed from South Africa for the ESL Africa finals. At Rage is Bravado. Now, Energy are odds on going to make it into second. The only way they wouldn't is if you guys from DC very kindly gifted Big Five like 216-0s and somehow Energy get very few.
You're not supposed to be giving me these hints before the game because there's like betting and side action that can happen in the meantime. And we all know what happens to CSGO players that get caught betting on their own
Look
games.
at that, geez, wow. You know, you guys do have contracts. I'm just saying. So. But it would basically, it would be a really weird set of circumstances where Energy gets so stomped by Bravado they hardly get any rounds, and Big Five beat you guys so badly that you all immediately retire and uninstall CS.
Hey, whoa.
But I mean, it doesn't sound likely. Do you guys think it's likely? Let's start with you, Chris.
So actually, when we talk about our own personal games and our internal games, obviously we've got a lot of games on the schedule, and we kind of try to focus on just one game at a time. And the conversation is generally around like, okay, what maps do you guys want to ban? What do you want to practice for upcoming events? We don't really focus that much on, this game's a massive, importantly game for another team. We're kind of internally focusing, especially right now in our lead up to the Rage event. We know what we want to do. We know what maps we want to practice. So, we're not playing this bigger like conspiracy theory strategy against, oh my God, guys, we have to give 2 rounds or whatever you say against Big Five for them to call an EN. So right now we're just trying to focus one game at a time and keep our good maps in terms of practice.
And you guys are not going to do anybody any favors just because, DC doesn't do favors. Yeah. They do beatings. That's what they're giving you.
In terms of every game, every game, whether, like I've always mentioned, even online, there's that competitiveness, there's inherent competitiveness in all of us. That's why we played so long. It's like you want to go out and do your best. So you're not going to go out and do anyone any favors, like you said. You're just going to go and try play the maps that you think is the right time in terms of your preparation for the next comp and do the best you can on that map. So we haven't really focused on the competition standings and statistics. I'm sure it's been mentioned in the WhatsApp group, but we generally just ignore it.
So I think you guys still have a mathematical chance of making it into 4th, because right now I think you guys are sitting 5th behind Big Five and Goliath. So if
no, this
yeah. So
if you guys beat Big Five,
might slide above Goliath into 4th, I think.
Mm-hmm. Then it would be an identical season standings to last season, which would be pretty crazy considering.
That's quite interesting, actually. It's quite consistent. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah,
it shows that the game isn't that random. It's good. It's a good thing.
Well, quickly take a question here from Jason Kelly. He says, how can we as viewers do more to get involved in esports as a career, not only as a player, but more behind the scenes? Example, I'm keen on photography. Well, esports as a career is pretty difficult. In fact, for all 3 of us, it's not really 100% all we do. So it's a very tough thing to just take as a career path right now. It doesn't really pay enough yet to be a sustainable career, but I think in the next 2 years it probably could be. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's going to depend on how things shake out, though. But in theory, the potential is there and the growth looks good. But I don't know. Even in 2 years, I don't think there'd be many people that would be 100% full time. But if you want to be in, sorry, no, just go ahead, Chris.
So for me, like what you're saying is like, to me, as we were talking about the ESL and everything, how it's progressed and transgressed, is that there's a lot of opportunities for people to get involved behind the scenes in terms of facilitating the broadcasts, because that's what gets out to the public. So to me, every single team needs those photographs where you all like doing this before the game and all those things
tough.
like that. It's in looking tough, and for a photographer, it's quite interesting because if you have a really brilliant photographer, you can actually make an event look quite interesting. You can bring it out to the people in a way that you wouldn't necessarily have thought of. So I think behind the scenes, particularly directing my answer at the direct question, in terms of photography, I think there's quite a few options, following the players, getting interesting things behind the scenes, taking not only the profile pictures, but showing the general public what it's like behind the scenes at the event and building up hypes and player profiles and actual player stories. I think that's quite an important aspect of the whole production.
That's an interesting one. I'd suggest to you, Jason, try to come through to some events, take some pictures, let people see the quality of your work, and then start contacting the tournament organizers and offering your services. You know, just get yourself a portfolio, get yourself going, and I think you'll be good. I mean, it might take a while until it's a sustainable thing. You might have to do some wedding photography and stuff like that as well. But you know, that's the sacrifice we all make. You know. But I think
let's keep backups for wedding photographs. I've heard disaster stories.
And
keep
contact,
those backups.
Contact tournament organizers as well. But
MGOs. I mean, hell, you can do. You can start with players as well. I mean, look at this man in the side of the Chris. Like, has zero social media presence, which we will mention repeatedly. But I mean, if you could do, you know, pictures for the DC boys, they can use those pictures in official press releases, etc., etc. So
exactly,
it's really just about getting out there and doing the work. Like, it's cuck. You have to start early. You have to start basically doing a lot of the stuff for free at the events.
That's what we all did. So I mean, that's we get paid now, but that's also again something that we worked our asses off for a very long time for free.
I just saw a question. Wants to know, we eat chips. Wants to know how many of us are wearing pants.
I'm not.
So, I mean, that's always like the question for casters and things like, why do you need pants, right?
You don't.
So, you really don't. I mean, it's just like, it's so nice right now. So nice.
It's breezy,
you don't even
guys.
know.
It's breezy. It's great.
You don't even know.
We'll get back to ESL Africa quickly. So, I mean, we've established who's likely to be at the finals. So, I think we'll do a more comprehensive preview in the.
And who have we got for the finals? It's going to be there that you haven't mentioned. Casters.
Yes, this is true.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the international casters, and I'd call them tier 1 casters. It's Jason Moses O'Toole and Laurent Pansy Scott have been announced today as the lead casting pair for the final.
Cool,
so that doesn't mean they're casting the whole tournament. It means they're casting the final. So I mean, myself and Anthrax will be involved. Wham and Hayes will be involved as well. So I mean, that'll be announced in due course. I'm saying it. I'm probably not allowed to say it, but I don't care. So that's what it's going to be. Profeci will be there as well. Apocalypse won't be. Ha ha ha.
I'll be winning some money.
Yeah, you'll be playing in the VS Gaming tournament. You're probably going to win it. So we'll get to that later. But all those dollar bills. So yeah, I mean, the Moses and Pansy thing, I think that's really exciting. I mean, Prof, you're pretty excited to extract some information from Moses.
Yeah, I'm super excited to speak to both of them actually, because Moses, firstly, is, I mean, he's been around the American scene for more than a decade, right? Started super young, so he's going to be fantastic for me to talk to. Pansy as well. I mean, she's been in broadcasting. Well, they say 10 years. In various titles, Battlefield and all the rest. So, I mean, I'm going to be speaking to them tons just to learn stuff from them. I think if you don't abuse that opportunity to just learn from them and talk to them behind the scenes about things, it's like basically just a waste of time. Like, what are you doing? You're working with them, so you might as well learn as much from them as you can.
Get as much info as possible. And just for we chips there, man. Yeah, they were announced on Twitter, but Prof and I and all the other South Africans haven't been announced yet. That's why I'm saying we're probably not actually supposed to mention we are there. But you know how big companies work, press releases.
I mean, how do we deal with this, guys? Just no respect.
Yeah, it's like, only they're going to be there. All the rest of us have worked all these months are just being thrown to the wayside. Woe is us. We'll have to go and cast the VS tournament instead. No, that's not happening. We are doing ESL Africa. So
we've been promised.
Yeah. I signed a contract. I don't know about you.
Master has promised Dobby position.
Yeah. So
we'll see.
APOC,
it's just a position.
Do I need to bring Creamy Moses around to you to say hello? Am I going to have to make that introduction?
Yeah, I think so. I want to touch your shiny head. It will be a goal of mine. I think it will give me good luck for our finals.
Could he and Rion have like a shine off?
I think you have to pat his head and rub his tummy like Buddha, then you'll get good luck.
I'm ready for it. I'm ready. Sub me in, coach. I'm ready.
Sub me in, coach. Well, I think it's going to be really cool. It's going to be amazing having them here, and I think it definitely puts some eyeballs on the tournaments as well. The other thing that also did, you were mentioning it just before we officially started the video, Chris, was that time-lapse video ESL put out of behind the scenes in the studio.
Absolutely. I mean, I just thought that was the coolest thing because, like I mentioned, I think it brings an outsider to the production scene. Just a little glimpse. I mean, obviously you can't do it all in one video, but the time lapse is so cool just to show how many people are actually involved in getting these productions and streams out to the general public. You know, like I said, it's not just here's the game, let's record it on HL TV and have a commentator sit on a microphone. It's an entire team of people. It's makeup, it's production, it's cameras, setup time. And these are real people with real jobs spending real time to get this out at the quality which they do, which I think is magnificent. And I think this is such a stage gauge or an opportunity for South African esports as a whole. You know, like if there ever was a step, this was it in terms of everybody, this entire community, because like I said, it's never a zero-sum game. We're not really competing against each other. We are growing our community and our audience, whether we are players in the game, whether we are casters, whether we are analysts, whether we are announcers. It's our audience that we wish to grow, people that will share our passion with us. And I think, to me, that's why I got so excited with the behind the scenes, because I'm like, guys, look at this. Just look at this. Look how many people and different things you need, how many little buttons on screens that no one knows what to do, that it takes to bring this out to you. And, you know, everyone shouts like, oh my goodness, the audio is by one sync and missing. Sometimes it's because we're in South Africa and you got to bounce the audio around 72 countries and hack 7 cell phones to get it to you. And we're trying, but it's a magnificent step in terms of progress. So that's why I was excited about that video.
Yeah, I think it really does showcase just how much is going on. If you guys haven't seen it, go over to the ESL Africa Facebook page or their Twitter page as well, or probably mine or Profeci's. We probably shared it as well, so you can check out that time lapse behind the scenes video. Really cool. It was also pretty fun when they did it as well, because you know,
did you have to sit really still for like 45 minutes?
We can't shatter the illusion.
I couldn't figure it out. I just thought, oh, you were like just doing like.
You're like,
I don't know. I give up. I give up.
Matrix.
It's black magic. It's black magic.
Yeah, but I mean, it is amazing for me, having worked on a number of different esports events. ESL Africa is probably 50% ahead of anybody else that I've worked for in terms of what they're doing. I mean, the sheer amounts of people involved, the quality of what's going out. I mean, I sound biased, but I mean, I'm a freelancer. I work for everybody. If you pay me money, I show up. So, you know, for me, I can say it just as somebody who's been involved. My previous job, I was an audio specialist. I supplied a lot of these places, so I've had a lot of experience dealing with these sorts of places. And ESL Africa is like really, really top tier, and I think it's pushed things on a little bit, and I really hope all the other tournament organizers start to you know, catch up to a little degree. Of course, you know, not everybody's got the budget of somebody like Kwese, but I mean, while they've got the budget, I'll take their money.
Sure. To me, one of the interesting learnings from my side, coming in from the outside, right, as well, is how many people you need from other facets of the industry, like you said, in terms of sound, lighting, makeup, to produce a good TV show as opposed to just a good gaming show. And it actually shows you how well some of the streaming gamers have just clicked maybe naturally to the concept of entertainment, and others, like how much kind of coaching and industry experience or knowledge you actually need to put it together. You know, not everyone just goes on stream and sparkles.
No, nobody did. Nobody did ever. It always takes a lot of trial and error. I mean, you I must compliment you. You were pretty good on camera right off the bat. So most people, I mean, we had Serge on for the final. He looked like he was, you know, there were headlights approaching him and he didn't know where to go, and like the car was going to hit him or something. That's how he looked on camera.
I think the thing is, for me, is I'm never really talking to the camera. I'm just talking about my passion, which makes it a lot easier, because you never really run out of things to say. I'm not, you know, you don't have to be scripted or prompted, because like, oh my God, I will sit you down. Just wait 10 years, sit, wait, stay. I will feed you, but I will tell you about CS. You know what I mean? Because it's just, I think it's easier because you have unlimited content in the back of your head that you find interesting. So you hope other people find it interesting too.
So Weird Chip says, listening to this podcast makes me drive better in Dirt Rally. Okay, well, I'll take that, because Dirt Rally is really hard. I've got it as well, and it's a cuck hard game. So
is it good?
It's great. It's really great. If you loved Colin McRae Rally way back in the 90s, because we're old, you definitely...
I'm going to make a note.
Okay, there we go. Dirt Rally. Codemasters, Colin McRae Rally guys, man.
I'm done.
So we're going to quickly, I mean, the last thing to mention for ESL Africa, the finals are happening at Rage in a couple weeks' time. The actual final is on Saturday. VS Gaming's Masters finals on Sunday, so there actually isn't really a clash there. I know a few people have asked about that, so that's the story on that. The last broadcast day of ESL Africa is on Thursday night. That's going to be the Energy versus Bravado game will be on there, as well as the DC Big 5 game. That'll just be on the North African stream. So unfortunately, it won't be in English. But if you do want to watch Chris and the boys do their thing, head over to the North African stream, which is twitch.tv/ESL_CSGOB. So it's amazing that I can remember that. Anyway, the other thing to talk about, I think, is the Matrix Maverick Challenge. All three of us were there in sunny Alberton. It was bloody hot.
Jason Kelly said, "Is that the Xiaomi Redmi Note 3?" And he is correct. I think he deserves like a prize for that. Come on, actually, just give him prizes. Just give him stuff. That was brilliant. Good spot.
I think we should give him a prize. I would like to. In fact, Jason Kelly, contact me on Twitter after this, and you will be getting yourself an MSI extra large mouse pad so that you can throw that mouse arm around with low sensitivity in CSGO. It's the only game you should be playing aside from Dirt, really. So we will be doing that. And also, thank you to Aperture PC for the free stuff. So that's going to be pretty cool. And you're most welcome, sir. So let's quickly... Reese says, or shall we say Rice, because we know who it is, Prof. He says he wants more neckbeard from you.
Does he?
Yes, he does.
What neckbeard, mate? What neckbeard?
It's just Reese things. Jason Kelly says, pro interaction with fans, for example, adopt a scrub day or something along those lines. Do we as viewers need to interact?
That is being announced. There is something being announced. We
do
know that.
Keep your eyes.
We can't tell you guys.
Yeah, we can't tell you, but keep your eyes on ESL Africa. They're going to announce
guys,
an amazing
Casimir is
thing.
on the stream, so we can't be that rude about his team.
Oh, damn it. Okay. And Pex is here too, guys. So, welcome, pro players. We're going to talk about your event. We've just finished with ESL Africa. We're going to talk about the Middle State Matrix Maverick Challenge, all the beautiful alliteration that happened in Alberton. It was incredibly hot on Saturday. We were all there, which raised the temperature even further because we're all literally amazing. So, I got no response there. So, you guys are all self-deprecating to an extreme degree there. I mean, embrace your own magnificence, guys. Have we learned nothing from Anthrax?
Reese Crossley is asking APOC to do the McMoore impersonation from Hooters 2015. I don't think we're allowed to speak about that on stream, especially if it's sponsored.
We won't go there. So, Pulse actually managed to win the Matrix Maverick Challenge pretty emphatically, pretty easily in the end. I mean, it was the best of 5. It only went 3 maps. Any comments there? I will start with you, Prof.
I mean, we came in expecting Pulse. I don't think we expected it to be that dominant over Pixel Hunters. They did have a chance, and there was some good plays, but it just felt like every time Pixel Hunters had a shot, in one of the Pulse players would just sort of slam the door in their face and okay, this is ours. So, I mean, I think Pixel Hunters did well getting there, but getting there, Pulse I think was. It's not even odds on. It's just Pulse would have had to do a hell of a lot to lose that best of 5. I mean, we expected maybe one map from Pixel Hunters, but in general, Pulse just clearly the better team.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Sure, I'd agree with that. Obviously, if I'm watching the stream from my side, I was also there live and watching it. It looked like one of those situations where, like you said, they would have to do a lot to lose because of the individual skill gap.
Yeah.
So it just seemed to me like it's almost like you said, Pulse could go a little bit looser, take more risks and more gaps because they seem to have just the better individual skill on the day, man to man. So even when they were getting themselves into unfavorable situations, their aim and mechanics was pulling them through. So I definitely saw a lot of rounds that they shouldn't have won that they managed to convert purely based on, momentum and hero plays that they really wouldn't have done if it was a closer matched skill game. So a little bit unfortunate. I was also really hoping to find some players emerge that I'd never heard of before. But unfortunately, Pulse it's not a brand new lineup out of nowhere. Obviously younger players come out, which is great, but it wasn't this, oh my goodness, guys, there's this Zamendi kid out of nowhere that's 12 years old that just wrecking everyone and just, went 30 for 0. that's kind of what I was hoping to see out the challenge. But overall, it was good. It was a reasonable quality of CS. Lots of mistakes happening both sides and not perfect, but it was reasonable quality CS and nice to see, and a great opportunity for these other teams that might not have had a showcase otherwise.
I mean, the one thing I enjoy about it is because it's like sort of like the lower level. I mean, what is it? In 3 weeks' time, it's basically ESL Africa ends their season 2. VS's Masters ends in like 3 weeks as well, and then I think Medal State whenever they've got their next tournament coming up. So there's like a short period which will be open. You'll probably see a lot of teams starting to shift players.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Pulse guys, they've done enough, I think, to get some of those guys will get their names out. You might land up on an XTC or a flip side or something like that. These are the good kind of platforms to at least get your name out there.
Be careful saying that with the players on the stream. You don't want to encourage these South African splits. I'm a big fan of teams staying together. Just saying.
Yeah. You with your extensive experience there. So something maybe also just to mention for guys, I think this year that what's going to be a little bit different is we used to sort of 6 months of no Counter-Strike between Rage and DGL starting again, because there never used to be anything in previous years. I mean, there was the occasional arena competition, the occasional M-Web Masters, but there was nothing else. This year, I think it's unlikely that there won't be anything. There's going to be OCS in December. I'm hearing rumblings of 2 or 3 other things still showing up this year after Rage. So, guys, definitely stay around. Don't uninstall or go and play PUBG after
Just when we think we're going to get a well-deserved break, they're like,
no rest for the wicked, but it does sound like there's some stuff in the works. We don't know 100% yet. I mean, some of it I do know about, but of course can't mention. But there's more stuff coming, so definitely if your players stick around, don't swap things around too much. But I like what Prof was saying about the Maverick Challenge. It's the intention was to bring you guys to the fore. Now, I think to some degree it did help as well. I mean, a guy like Casimir, for instance, sort of announced himself as more of a star player than maybe he was, in a year
Absolutely.
or two ago.
He had really, really a great performance. Obviously, it's nice being on the dominating team where you're ahead in the scores and you have that opportunity to showcase. But certainly stepping out to the plate, hitting some nutty shots in the game. Obviously great mechanics, and it's really nice to do it on LAN, on a comp PC, in an environment where where you should. I mean, this is if ever there was a place to showcase yourself, this is it, on the big stage, where the pressure of the camera's on you. So I think it was a good performance, and this is the kind of thing, like we said, if there's going to be emerging players, this is the platform for them to raise themselves on.
Absolutely. I mean, guys like Severe as well, I think, also showcased themselves nicely. I mean, a bunch of those players have been around for a while, and finally for them they got deep into a tournament. So I mean, I know a couple of the guys, so I'm happy for them that they managed to showcase themselves. I think the tournament overall, I casted a couple of the games. It was a really nice thing, and I mean, Medal State pull things off with a particular style that they have, which I really enjoy. So, and I think a lot of people do. So it was a great event. I just want to quickly read a comment from Casimir here. Prof, don't blush. Just saying the improvement from Profeci from where I first saw him to now in terms of his knowledge on the game actually shocked me. Super happy someone invests time in learning about the local scene. So there's a bit of props. No blushing, Prof.
Try not to.
Wow, okay. So well, thank you for that, Kazi. I'll give you yet another hug, because I give you a hug every time I see you. So
obviously, just a final note on that, we have to give props to old Shazzles, being the only female gamer, winning just another title behind her name. She's turning out to be the MVP of South African gaming, winning almost everything that she does end up entering, which is just brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think also considering she's had a lot of health issues and stuff, it's made it difficult for her to stay in a team. It was great to see her stay in a team throughout the season, perform well. And I'd love to get her on the show at some point. In fact, I've been trying to get her on the show now for the last couple of weeks, but because of the Maverick Challenge, she's been a little busy. So we'll definitely get her on here sometime soon, because I think she's got some really unique insights. So let's talk about ESEA South Africa season 26 in the open division.
I'm not talking to you.
You're not talking to me. Okay.
Well, he's not joining the competition either. So I mean, there's that.
So the big news there is the registrations finished on Sunday night. And there's 44 teams registered, which is actually pretty amazing. That's like double to last season. So I think that's awesome. That maybe we can get back to going over to Mountain Dew Land. That'd be nice.
That would be fantastic.
But unfortunately for this season, nothing announced yet for us, South Africa to actually go to the next MDL land. So I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. It's kind of that horse before the cart sort of scenario we were talking about
but I
a
mean,
couple of weeks
if the
ago.
numbers are consistently growing like that, and like you said, double it's no mean
Double's
feat.
big,
That's
yeah.
quite a lot of improvement in terms of, just teams participating. So hopefully it builds from there. Hopefully this isn't a level out from what we've seen.
Yeah,
Pex, I just want to say I will give you a hug next time I see you. Sorry.
If you can just maintain, I think if we could maintain about 50 to 70 teams on average, I think it'd be pretty solid. Because if you look at how many teams that there are available, and like most of these guys are paying as well, which is great to see, because that that indicates that they're actually wanting to get better. So if you can do that, it's going to encourage more tournaments. ESEA runs, I think, 4 seasons a year, 3 seasons a year.
4 years.
Absolutely. That's a lot of
there's that.
If you look at the amount of teams in the league in your schedules, and I mean, that's speaking for ourselves, that's why we decided to give this one a skip, is just purely based on the amount of leagues and the amount of games we have to schedule in a week. It's becoming unviable because you've also got to add in practice time, which is what people forget. You've also got to do those nights where you just sit down and do strats and breaches and dry runs, and to keep yourself up to date with not only the meta, but in terms of your team, what you're doing and how you've evolved, because your team changes from a few weeks to the next, and the way you do things changes. So it becomes incredibly impossible for us to schedule those games. And so I think this ESEA is magnificent because it'll bring newer teams into this formal structure of you have to get through your games and you have to schedule matches against other good teams.
The thing I just love about it is that it's now creating the scene where at the top end we have the DCs, the Energies, the Providers of the world playing in like the ESLs and the top level metal states. And then that'll be like the league that they're running. But because there's not necessarily enough time to play in the ESEAs, you now have the next level of teams playing in that. And it's much it's part of a comment I made. I think it was to one of the guys from ACGL. They'd asked they did a calculation that there's 8 million rand put into South African esports this year. And what did I think, or what did anybody think of it? And I said, I love it. But the thing that I wish was that if it was structured better, if there's an event every month, I think it's better than one huge event every 3 months. So then there's nothing, and then an event, and then nothing. So these small little side events, I think, are lovely because it allows the Pulses, the Pixel Hunters, the Severes. These guys are constantly playing. They've got a league that they can play in every month. There's money at the end of the league, and then once you've done that, you can play against the upper level teams.
From my perspective as well, like you said, these smaller events in inverted commas, maybe smaller in terms of prize money, but to me, the prestige is always there. You always want to win and you want to push your adversaries to the limit. So, the more interaction you have in these serious competitions, again, like even if they're small, the better it is for your team overall as an experience, because you're going to be practicing really hard and trying your very level best at each one of these events, regardless of whether the prize money is 10,000 rand, 100,000 rand, 1,000,000 rand. I don't think anyone will go into those or want to go into those underprepared. So we've got to place more of these events. Like you said, you can't just have Metal State in March and wait and then have Rage in October and then do it again. That's the same trap we fell into for the previous 10 years. If we want to grow it, it's about consistency.
Agreed. For ESEA, there's $2,000 on offer for the season, so it's some nice change there. Definitely worth teams actually participating. We'll talk about it a little bit later in the show about the Mountain Dew LAN actually for the previous season, which unfortunately South Africa were left out of going to the actual LAN. That's actually happening this weekend. So that's definitely coming up. And if we continue to experience growth like this, 44 teams, I think it was only 18 teams last season. So that's some
25.
25. Okay, yeah, I just recall a bunch of them dropped out near the beginning. So that's some pretty good growth. I think for any team that wants to be involved, it's good to be involved, and you're going to get some experience because you're going to get seeded against some top teams. In doing that, you'll get to play like a Goliath or a Bravado and get absolutely wrecked. But if you approach it with a positive attitude, look at what you're doing, and actually make sure that you adapt for the next time you play against a team like that. You're going to learn from it. If you go in with a bad attitude, I said it last week, you're not going to learn anything from it. But I found when I was playing actively, trying to reach from the dark ages of open division all the way to Prem division. I mean, my team did it in a year, and that was from making sure that we actually got something constructive from playing with those guys. And we also scrimmed with these DC fellows as well, which helped a lot. Getting wrecked by them repeatedly until we started playing them close really helped.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you say it in jest, but it's a serious thing. For us, one of our most important things is scrimming against teams that'll beat us 16-0. Screw you, Energy and BVD. We hate you guys. But, it's so important in terms of growth. You either got to have a close match or a match where you're losing to really, really start to grow and understand what you're doing wrong. Because the problem is consistently playing weaker teams is that you'll make the same mistakes over and over again and never get punished for it. So you don't really constructively learn to get better. And again, I'll mention again, that's the one aspect that really worries me about South African gaming in general at the moment, is we're kind of self-contained. So the BVDs and Energies and Goliaths and Big Fives, I don't think are getting punished to the level they should be for making the mistakes that they do, and consistently so.
I agree, yeah.
So you're finding these crazy hero plays and these things that are working here and working consistently that become ingrained as part of your habit because, that's a cool trick that will work. Whereas overseas, if you try it, you'll get shut down 10 out of 10. And to me, that learning curve is going to be harder the longer you do that for. So that's one of my big worries, my base worries in terms of us competing overseas. But all of these little steps along the way is almost like establishing the route like club soccer does in terms of the higher leagues and provincial leagues and national leagues. Yeah. It's all steps in the right direction, which is good overall.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
you first.
The thing
and
is,
then I'm
just
read
like
some
increased support for ESEA also does increase our chances of getting back to MDL. So if we can have constantly quite a few teams playing, then maybe ESEA rethinks their deal and comes back with.
Sorry.
and, and then they come back and they're like, okay, we will invite you to MDL, and then it's another opportunity to go overseas again. Even if it's, MDL is I think going to be 4 times a year. That's 4 lands a year that one of our teams can go overseas.
Yeah, I think that's a huge opportunity.
Support something like ESEA because that is the kind of thing that we need to get our boys
$50,
overseas.
Guys. It's not going to kill you, and even if you get wrecked, that's not going to kill you either. If you're going to learn something.
I forgot it at home. Sorry.
Okay, of course, DC are not there, so we just preached, and now they've completely disqualified everything we said by not being there. But no, that's because you guys actually do need a break, and I'd agree with it. The action for you guys since pretty much February has been constant, so it's
yeah. It's just also a bit of a pity because now I have to travel for work on Friday, and I'll only be back the day before Rage, which puts a bit of a spanner in the works for our preparations. But we'll get around it and work our way through it. But I think everyone is a little bit hectic at the moment in terms of other stuff outside the game. Obviously, we'll work around it as we always do, but it does get a bit crazy, which is great. The opportunity, like I said, the opportunity there is right now for the teams with the guys that have the time, that want to bridge that gap really quickly and take their teams to the next level. You've got no excuse. There's all the competitions. There's all the teams scrimming. There's ESEA up and running where you can log in and play high-level pickup matches. What is your excuse? What are you doing? Don't talk to me. Just go play CS now. Stop watching. Go.
This man speaks the truth, guys. Listen to him. So comments. We'll quickly go with Casimir saying, just saying, I want DC on LAN. I want to experience the hurt. So I think there might be an opportunity actually at VS Gaming Masters. So that could be fun. And we've got.
It could actually be quite interesting. I think that actually may be one of the games on the schedule, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. Well, then you might be getting your wish there, Kazi. We Chip says to all, what do you guys think about mapping and other creative pursuits revolving around CS? I mean, he's obviously a frag movie maker, so he's a content creator. So, what do we think about the creative pursuits revolving around CS? From my side, of course, I'm a content creator too, so I think it's great. Keep doing it.
Yeah, I think mapping isn't as well supported as it should be.
Yeah, I'd agree
by
with
Valve.
That.
I think if they can do something a little bit more like what they do for the international, where they have something like the source movie maker videos, and then you have to submit a whole bunch of videos for the international, and then at the international they have a prize. I think if they could do something like that,
that'd be cool.
Specifically around the majors.
In TF2 they have something called the Saxy Awards, which is also the same thing. So
I just think that the amount of time that it takes to make these videos and the amount of creativity and the movie makers pulling the games into different engines with the same positions and the astonishing things that they're able to do creatively is mind-blowing. And it's just a pity that it's not monetized more. Obviously it's passion projects and hobbies, but the amount of skill in terms of editing and pure creativity is, to me, it's just astonishing.
Also,
it's astonishing.
We
I do
Ships
think
is
Ralph
one
can
of
do
the
a
very
bit more,
best as well, guys. So I mean, if you haven't checked out his stuff, go to his YouTube channel, check out his frag movies. He's really good at it.
Shaz, you've deagled me on land enough. It's enough, okay? It's enough. We're done here. We're done here.
Oh, geez, I need to scroll down here. Do you think Pulse? Do you think Pulse might be the next Bravado and get an international if more effort gets put in? Off the bat, I'd say no, just because I want to wreck them because they're in chat.
Effort can only take you so far, unfortunately. Like, they'll do well, I think, if Pulse puts a hell of a lot more effort in, maybe. But I don't know. I can't see the current lineup being able to beat the teams to make it overseas, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of those players can go far. The team can actually do some damage in South African CS. I think Pac-Man, Casimir, Shaz, Pex, all good players, you know. So I kind of feel like they all definitely still got quite a journey ahead of them in South African CS as a team, and you know, eventually if those players split off. So I think possibility to make it, but if you want to make it internationally, it's substantially harder, and so far South African hasn't succeeded. So we're gonna have to see how that goes eventually. It's something, of course, we've spoken about
obviously
before.
we've spoken about it on a few occasions in person and on stream, but it's such an incredible financial undertaking and back-end lifestyle change for the players because of our geographical limitations in South Africa. So it's going to be a monumental effort, and it's going to happen. Don't get me wrong, it's going to happen with the amount of money in esports and the growth at the moment. It's not exactly exponential growth, but there's growth nonetheless in a fairly big market. So eventually someone's going to have to take the plunge and jump and move overseas as a team or feed players up into the international scene. But it just completely depends on the financial viability, because as players get older and, you know, just leaving school into their 20s, and when they hit 30, some of us, I don't know who, like, that seems way too old to still be playing games, but
yeah, totally.
You know, as you get older, there's more serious things that you may or may not want to do with your life that are not maybe conducive to living with a gaming team in a gaming house. Well, I mean,
need gaming
that's
houses,
your thing.
though?
That's your thing. That's your thing.
It's not really a thing
I
in
mean,
CS.
we're not going to judge.
It never has been really, unless you're Brazilian.
I mean, look, I'll say this about Pulse Gaming is that in the next few months they have a lot of opportunities to start if they really want to be the next Bravado, right?
Start now.
The next 4 months, you guys better start prepping like madmen, because you guys have VS Gaming Masters coming up in 3 weeks' time. ESL is probably going to be announcing something. I mean, maybe not this year, but at least next year. You have OCS that you guys can still play. ESEA is going on. That's at least 4 leagues that you guys can start prepping for. That's all teams, not just Pulse. Any team that wants to be the king of the castle, you know, the man on top of the hill, that, like, now is the time to start prepping, because you've got a whole bunch of leagues coming up, and now is when you really have to start working. Guys like Chris, they've been there, done that. They know what it's like. So speak to men like this, because they'll tell you what you need to do to succeed at the top level. And it's hard. It's cuck. You're going to have to really practice your asses off, but you have to do it.
Like all the pro sportsmen and things will tell you, at that stage, it's no longer just dedication. It almost has to be an obsession. And you have to forego a lot of things, and you have to make a lot of sacrifices in order to get there, because CS, the great thing about CS, as with a lot of sports, is that you tend to get returns on the more time you put in. You know what I mean? So you tend to level up, and you see the game differently, and you experience it differently based on the amount of hours you put in. Now, obviously, some people have more natural talent than others, and some people grasp concepts quicker. But at the end of the day, if you're willing to sit there and get obsessed with it and put in the grind, you'll start to see things about the game that actually make it more intricate than you would if you're just spectating it, which is, to me, the craziest thing. And that's why I value good casters so much, is that they can reduce an idea
from you something. Didn't say my name, actually, so.
from something someone did in a game, just based on watching them in the third person, and be able to jump into their mind and explain a complicated decision. And that is astonishing, and that's what gets me excited about it. But the fact that there are that many levels up in the game means that there's always room for improvement. And to me, what does everyone do? Oh, we're going to practice hard. What did you do? Oh, I killed 3,000 bots and I played deathmatch for 4 hours. Yes, but how many demos did you watch? ...
Yeah, no, I agree with you guys. I think the amount of preparation that one can put in to get to bridge that gap, that there's a lot that you can do to make it work for your team. And I mean, many teams have proven before that in the space of a year or two, they can reach a pretty high level. So it's always amazing to me, particularly younger players. I mean, us old dogs, it takes us a lot longer to improve at things. When you got the time, if you're 16, 17 years old and you've got the time available, there's a lot that you can do to bridge that gap quickly. We've seen players who are young just suddenly be amazing. The likes of Flexi, JT, I mean,
Rops.
Rops.
World class.
I mean, these guys obviously do put in the hard work. There's no such thing as people just suddenly showing up and being good. They always did the work behind the scenes. It's just they come into the public consciousness where you go, what? So you could be that if you're watching and you're a younger player. But
the man says, I don't need to watch demos. I can just watch Cold Zero play kill 3,000 bots.
I do also want to give a shout out to
Cold Zero is actually a fantastic pro to watch, though.
Funny.
Yeah, he plays fundamentally good CS.
Yeah, like if you've heard the stories about he plays, like he'll play with his Gold Nova crap teammate, like friends, and he plays it like he's playing a major final. If he's peeking a corner, he's telling his mate, "You flashing me in." If he's checking, an angle, he's checking it same way he would play it against a pro player. And like once you can get into that mode, that you're always playing the best. Well, not necessarily the best way, but you're always playing like the as close to correct as possible. Like your level, your base level goes up. So then when you have the crazy games, it's even higher. It's not just you relying 100%. On hitting a silly shot.
It's like making the right choices in the right time and giving yourself the best probability. And obviously, every now and again, you have to take risks. And risks are part of the game. And there's a certain level there where confidence and, well, let's put it on the line, like ego plays a massive part. You have to be confident enough and have the ego to take the step in certain situations. But overall, you want to be taking the highest percentage step out of the 6 that you might have taken before that. You want to take this one at this time because of this region. So like you said, improve your base level, and overall your game should even out to a better, more consistent game. And consistency is key. It's almost like poker where any hand can win. I could go in and call you with a 3-7 offsuit. I don't even know. I don't play poker. That must be bad cards. Must be bad cards. Anyway, you could call that and you could still win the hand against a guy with 2 aces because of pure luck, but that wasn't the correct play. So CS is a lot like that. In a complete noob can step you with a noob cannon and bang, bang, kill 2 guys, but he was doing the wrong thing. You were doing the right thing. Doesn't mean you should stop doing the right thing. Overall, you probably did the right thing. So, and to me, that's where your game knowledge comes into play. Is like, okay, I stepped and I got killed, but I got killed doing the right thing, and then you write it off. You did the right thing, and that's where this game experience and game knowledge and knowing what to do at the right time is so important, and that just comes with time and experience and analytics.
And being old. So moving on, but I do agree with you there. I'd just like to commend Shaz for winning the comment game comprehensively. She wants you, Chris, could you sign my butt, is what she says. So
I didn't even read that.
If you guys haven't seen, scroll up, see some of Shaz's comments. I can't read all of them on stream. I think, even with me talking about snorting cocaine and using the F word multiple times, I think her comments might get us banned from YouTube. So I won't read them out.
Probably.
Breaking the stream, Shaz. Breaking the stream. Try and be serious, yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. There was also a question earlier from Jason Kelly again about whether the MP5 would come back. No, because in real life, the UMP was the weapon by Heckler and Koch that replaced the MP5, and it also replaced it in CS. So, no, it's not coming back. And Dust 2 remake, who knows? Dasher, probably not going to happen anytime soon, but would be nice.
Probably, I would assume, around about January sometime, we could maybe start expecting it.
Yeah, it's going to probably be in enough time that they could try to include it in the next major, I would think, because that's usually what Valve does. Try to throw a cat amongst
maybe
the pigeons.
After the major.
Okay, well, let's see. I mean, we all remember Cobble a few years ago. Oh, here you go.
Please
Get
no.
wrecked.
Please no. I think Valve learned. Let's hope they did.
Let's hope they've learned. So we'll move on with our script a little bit here. Emoda, enjoy going back to Pornhub.
Bye, Emoda. Enjoy it. See you in 20 seconds.
What's happening?
Keep it on.
Anyway.
Rough.
In other news, Okay, well, ESL New York, I think, is an interesting one to look at. They actually ran it on the old patch last week. The beta patch became the actual game with the changes to the P250 and the Glock, as well as the tagging that was reduced. I think it's a good decision from ESL to actually run the old patch because there wouldn't have been enough time for the players. I think they would have had 1 day to get used to it. And I think particularly with the tagging being reduced and the way the P250 works being reduced, it could like massively affect save rounds. So, what's your thoughts on the actual patch there, Chris? I mean, you've had a little bit of time playing it.
So I think one of the biggest changes, obviously, will be the P250. I think it's fantastic change in general because it reduces the percentage chance of that P250 one tap against an M4, for example, where you can have a player that's invested 4,100 into a round and one player 300 into a round, and you're winning a duel based on, that trading of headshots. But I also think it helps the players with really good aim with the P250. That long range capability now and the tagging is just insane. So overall, I think it was a good change. I think it was really well thought out, and I think they're going to achieve the objective of this one of catching a little bit more to the higher skill players. I'm always adverse to the noob friendly changes, and I always kind of praise the changes that I guess are more beneficial to the higher skill players. So I think overall it was a well thought out change, and I think it'll pan out fine. I don't think it's going to have a major drastic impact on the game, but I certainly think it's really, really good steps in terms of, just tending to that higher skill level.
Yeah, I haven't
it also
a...
does.
Sorry, you
first. Sorry, I just want to say one last thing. It says it also does seem like they're trying to make the P250 almost like a different option for a T side pistol round.
T side pistol.
Like as in they'll pick it up more often. Like you'll go Glock, smoke, and flash or something instead of just the default,
and
like
we've
no
seen
armor
it
and a Glock.
thrown in there, but not really, because like at the moment, or the way it was before the patch, you'd see like if you're going to buy that smoky, you might as well get a flash and an HE or two flashes or whatever. We've seen that more often, but now it's really viable to like just chuck a smoke and a P250 in and see what you can do with it, or even chuck a smoke and P250, drop it to your teammate with armor and see what he can do with it. So it gets quite interesting. And I kind of like that switch up. I think, like you said, it could have more of an impact in pistol rounds themselves, which I don't think originally was the concern. I think it was more like on a ground round, where do we sit with it? But I think that could have quite a big impact, which is quite a cool side effect.
Yeah, I must say, from spending a little bit of time on Friday, I probably played about 2 hours of deathmatch cumulatively because I was listening to By the Numbers, because that's on later tonight, by the way. So gonna definitely catch that. But I like to play deathmatch, or free for all while I'm like listening to a podcast or something, just to keep the skills that never existed in the first place up. So, but I spent a lot of time with the P250 there, and I must say it really does lend itself nicely to those long range sort of shots. And I mean, for me, the style of player I am, I tend not to be super mobile with a pistol, so I actually kind of didn't notice a huge amount of difference to the movement penalties because I tended to stop anyway. I kind of treated like a deagle a little bit in the way I shoot. So for me, I found it like, it was pretty easy to get those headshots, and of course you need to get a headshot and a body shot or two now, but I think overall the balance of the weapon is way better. It's not this $300 thing that can like wreck an entire team that walk through mid doors on Dust 2 or something if you're standing at a close angle. I think it's much more balanced. And I actually a lot of people have complained about the pistols in CSGO lately with the changes that have been made, but I think Valve have got the right idea. These little incremental changes are actually for the better because they're trying to raise the skill ceiling of the game. And I think for those of us who value the skill in the game, and I mean, you were mentioning it, Chris, it's actually a good thing that it's promoting skillful play as opposed to, just blatting away with the gun as fast as you can possibly do, like the Tech 9 used to be.
Absolutely. You don't really want, so like you said, with the Tech 9, you run out and you spray the gun. You don't want that to be a consistent advantage, just bringing in that randomness, like, oh my goodness, the Oaks are just running in and spraying that Tech 9 and consistently getting the 1K or 2K and breaking open a site on a lower powered value weapon just because it could. That to me is like almost like exploiting a bit of a bug or an imbalance. So I think, like you said, these things like just reining it in a bit, like reining in the destruction of P250 in rounds where it shouldn't, is such a positive impact on the game. To me, it's a positive change.
Absolutely. And then let's moving on to some other news that is not common knowledge, but you got your hands on this information today, Apoc, so I hope they sue you and not me. which would be
ladies and gentlemen,
proceedings.
I have an announcement to make. The world should know. No, I'm kidding. I gather by that we are talking about the teams that are going to play in the final VS Gaming event at Rage.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
So
should be that.
Take it away,
the
Chris.
seedings have been sent to the teams and the MGOs, including MGOs that are not invited to the tournament. So I guess it's fair enough to release it to the public, since MGOs who are not invited aren't contracted anyway. So in order of seeding, it will be Damage Control, eXdee Gaming, eXdee Gaming, Veneration E-Sports, Aperture Gaming, Ventus Gaming, White Rabbit Gaming, and Pulse Gaming. So those are the final 8 teams that are qualified for VS Gaming. Congratulations to all of you, particularly DDC.
And, also, one thing, Kazi's got his wish, because knowing how VS tends to run their seeding, it's 1 versus 8 in round 1.
Yes. That's exactly why I said it when I spotted it earlier. When I saw the question, I was like, oh, okay, that's a distinct possibility.
Dean,
if they run on the format 1 versus 8 double
DC.
limb.
You're about to
We
get
are
wrecked by
not
DC.
sure yet about the entire format and the BOOC and the CompPC schedule and structure. Yeah. So obviously that'll come out in the next week or so. So I'm actually looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be amazing. That's, of course, the VS Gaming Masters final at Rage, happening the same weekend as the ESL Africa finals. The only difference is that the VS final is on Sunday, the ESL Africa final is on Saturday. So you should, if you're going to come as a spectator, be able to catch both. So
yeah, and obviously Shaz and Casimir have also noted that they're coming for me. But the nice thing is that that Deagle is banned from the event. Sorry, Shaz. It was just like a consensus amongst the top 8 teams, and we all decided you weren't invited. Sorry, Deagle banned. Thanks.
So for Kaz, you've got a question there. I'm going to refer to the question a little later in the show because we need to catch up on a little bit of time here because we're getting a bit distracted. But I will definitely keep it in mind. So don't worry, I will not forget about your question, my good man. We will get back to it. So the past events we're going to quickly have a look at is the ESL One New York, which was this very past weekend, and Chips was also asking a little bit about what we thought about the final, so we will get there. I'm going to just quickly switch on the browser so you guys can see a little bit about what actually happened there. So FaZe, of course, won the $125,000. Liquid came in second. We got Cloud9 in third, fourth, SK third, fourth, Navi and Astralis both 5th to 6th place, and Virtus Pro and Envious there in basically joint last. So I think let's start from the back. Envious are the guys, of course, expected to come in last, so I don't really think that's out of the ordinary. They're qualifying for all these tournaments, but they don't seem to really be able to convert it on land. So definitely some work to be done for them there. Virtus Pro, I feel like a stuck record at this point because we always talk about Virtus Pro. So would you guys, in as brief a way as possible, express your deep sadness or utter joy at Virtus Pro right now?
Yeah, shame. I think just another devastating placing for them, and they're not going to feel good about this at all. Another opportunity to advance and get somewhere or make something out of their games, and they really had opportunities and just no conversions. Again, they seem like the Springboks at the moment.
Well, I think that
they got more than 0 though.
That
is a
true.
fair point.
If you got beaten 57-0 in Counter-Strike, I think that'd be quite a big deal.
Well, if you're a Dota caster covering a CS event, you might think that score's possible. Anyway, yeah, sorry, Prof, I can see you. What do you want to say about Virtus Pro there?
They're bad.
No shame.
I don't know what else you can say.
Don't insult my longevity friends like that.
They're just not much of anything right now. Snacks is still terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a bad team. They're going to have to figure something out. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. I mean, Snacks said in an interview to HLTV that the team has lost their way. They don't know who they are in-game anymore, and I think that's probably from chucking that in-game leader all around too much. It's difficult to see. I mean, meanwhile, Mishu is the guy who's been touted as one of the players to join in one of the qualifiers over the weekend. I think he ended the final in a BO5 with a 1.9 rating, so it was sort of Mishu and some bots. But, maybe it is time for him. He's 20 years old. Maybe he can slot in there. I don't know. I mean, we've often thought there isn't really another Polish player. Maybe he is an option. I don't think he's ever subbed for them before because I recall Innocent and Manice both subbing for VP.
Yeah, I saw Manice sub for them, and he did really well on the first map, and then he got like 0 for 20 on the second. I saw him in Inferno. He was absolutely terrible, which is unfortunate. Yeah, but so just the way it goes.
We'll see.
Yep.
Snacks also mentioned maybe it's time for a change. So I don't know. I never believe them because they like their Mercedeses and stuff from ES that own both them and Navi. But let's see. I really hope they can pull up their socks. I'm going to quickly go back to the browser. I have to tell you guys, otherwise, I mean, when are you guys going to be able to do things that you shouldn't do when you think you're not on camera? So we're going over to Astralis 5th to 6th. I think that's a tremendously disappointing result for Astralis and equally so for Navi. Astralis would have been, and Navi both would have been targeting top 4, and I think maybe people wouldn't have expected Liquid and Cloud9 to be there. Astralis fan number 1, Prof, what do you feel about Astralis's result here?
They looking worrying, eh? The problem is none of them look terrible enough to drop, except maybe Kirby. He's had a nightmare run in the last
he's
month
been
or
a
so.
superstar over the last 3 months before that, so you can't really think of dropping him.
That's the problem. Is
a slump.
Yeah, I mean the thing is he can be a fantastic player, but you can say that about all of their players. Like Device still puts up the numbers. Dupree is there. Zipix, I think maybe he's gone a bit quiet. Glaive had some good games, but in general they're just not pitching. It's like a team-wide lack of pitching. It's just horrible. I mean, Liquid beat them pretty fairly. FaZe absolutely dumpstered them with Niko going monster mode. So
yeah, but FaZe dumpstered everyone up until the
I think they dropped
game
39.
and then they carried on.
Yeah, but so I don't think it's panic stations for Astralis yet, but if there's another 2 events like this, they almost certainly will be making a change, I think.
Yes, KSG, we read chat.
Yes, and this is about pink fluffy unicorns and narwhals.
A little bit of unicorns dancing on rainbows. You got it wrong.
Okay, I got it wrong.
To get the full story.
Damn it. Anyway, so quickly switch back here to the tournament results there. So I mean, Navi, it was simple, kind of going God mode yet again, and unfortunately not really carrying them across the line. I think it's only a matter of time. If they keep finishing like this, we may see a -C situation. I've seen some rumblings about that as well. So it's possible. I don't think
Historics.
Yeah,
-C's minus Zeus.
It could be. I mean, like Zeus. I think Thorin said on Twitter over the weekend, like, where are those people now who are saying that Zeus is the best in-game leader in the world? Because the team has actually been okay without him, and Navi hasn't necessarily gotten that much better. So I do hope for Navi they can do better, but 5th to 6th not gonna be
back to Liquid. Please.
I mean, it's only so long until Navi opens the checkbook and it gets to the point where okay, we can afford Angel and Electronic now, and they'll go buy them because Navi is not a team that will accept mediocrity for much longer. I don't think
they're also not a team that's going to accept $8,500 prize money. Like, what is this bullshit? So, SK there.
Where are the money, boys? Very simple. Go get more. Please stream today. You missed out on the comp.
Yeah.
I wish I'd caught that on camera. I was still in the browser view, but SK there 3rd to 4th again. Another disappointing tournament from them that they should have probably been in contention to win. They comprehensively got beaten by Liquid, and I think Liquid are definitely somebody worth talking about. SK got some issues. Cloud9. 3rd to 4th, actually, it's not bad from them. The problem, I guess, for them was just how badly they got destroyed by FaZe. So definitely a little bit more time required.
I mean, it's tough for them, obviously, and they wouldn't have liked that. But everyone did. Everyone got dumpstered by FaZe, and you Liquid. Okay, maybe a bit of a comeback, a little too late on Overpass, and that stupid Monster B Rush, which we won't talk about. But everyone got dumpstered by FaZe, so you can't really gauge it. I think they just had an insane tournament where they were all on fire individually. So, a tough one for Cloud9, really tough. But, I mean, they did okay. They represented themselves with their new lineup, relatively new lineup.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can't... the problem is because of how FaZe won, it's hard to know exactly where Cloud9 is. They looked good at times, but, I mean, they ran into a phase that just sort of, squashed them and kept going. And it's okay, how good were they, actually?
Shaz, only if it's permanent marker.
I think you should use a tattoo gun, I'm
ready.
Anyway, so the Liquid example as a team, I think the fact that they've beaten SK last week at ESG Mykonos, they've beaten SK this past week again in ESL One New York, and they'd beaten Astralis. I think that actually really does a lot for their credentials as a team as a whole. They really look like a team. They're playing fundamentally good Counter-Strike.
Absolutely. And great individual players. Obviously, we have to mention Eleague because Eleague has been mentioned by everyone, but great individual plays as well. Not just, they've got some cool strats, actually. They've been quite creative, and some stuff that I've seen Liquid do that I haven't seen other teams do, which shows, a lot of work on the drawing board, but also the importance of your power plays stepping up and converting. It's all great to have good strats, but if the guys aren't converting, you're going to do a Cloud9 where, really great strats and you win 3 or 4 rounds and you lose against FaZe, whereas Liquid putting them through their paces on overpass, let's call it that.
Do you think it's a question of Zeus's involvement as the coach there, Prof?
I think a bit of that, and also a bit of FaZe not being as terrifying as their... Like, I think FaZe's highs are terrifyingly insane, like we saw this tournament. But I think if you can stop them and slow them down, I think they start to fall apart. Like you saw, especially on that overpass comeback by Liquid, FaZe was looking sketchy at times. Like some of the stuff they were doing was like, you could clearly see like, this worked 10 minutes ago, guys. Why is it not working now? It's like, yeah, at that point you should be adapting to what's going on, not just trying the same stuff.
What bothers me about FaZe a little bit, having watched the games and just looking at their strategies, is almost, and I hate to say it, you can see this obviously. I mean, this is pro CS. There's a lot of preparation, but it almost looks a little bit puggy. Almost looks like they almost relying on the guys hitting those 3Ks. Niko going into the site and like, oh, there's 3 guys, boom, boom, boom. Rain, 3-on-1 on the site, boom, 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 at different angles. They almost relying on that, if that makes any sense. Like if you were to contrast them to a team like SK, which I think is a great contrast. SK, precise, structured, methodical. Look, Cold Zero is consistent, but not, wow, holy cow, we need Fallen to hit those miracle AWP shots. Whereas like you're like almost like, we need Niko to go off, or we need Olaf or Rain to do something crazy in this round to pull it back. So it didn't look to me as dominant as the scoreline showed, but they were dominant. So a little bit strange, actually, quite cool, but almost it's an anomaly. Like you've got 5 crazy aim players winning.
Like I don't think FaZe. I do agree with you. I don't think FaZe is going to do this kind of damage at tournaments for the rest of the year. Like they'll do well, and I think they'll win at least 1 or maybe even 2 more events. But I can't see them just ruffle stomping an entire tournament like this again.
Yeah, also, to me, what was weird about their run as well was just how well Carrigan played on an individual level. Like, he really had some amazing games. And, I mean, he's not really known for that. So, I mean, if he's not fragging at that level and somebody actually stops them effectively from a skill point of view, because it's also unlikely that all 4 of the other players are all going to show up at the same time. I mean, that doesn't usually happen. So, it's possible that they can do well in tournaments towards the for the rest of the year. They could probably win a couple, but they could also have disappointing results where they go out in groups because they just didn't get those crazy kills on the day from a particular player.
It just shows you the impact of superstar players and just how good they are as individuals to be able to be thrown into a situation where we know they probably don't have the best communication in the world, just by virtue of the fact that they're not a homogenous team speaking the same languages or same native tongue. And it just also goes to show you how interesting it is that CS language, if you will, traverses these language barriers that they may have had. So calling out spots or strategies or smokes, kind of the communication around that must be so interesting to witness. They're not quite familiar with each other, all from different backgrounds. They speak slightly different languages, yet they've overcome this, and it just shows you how powerful these individual game sense and performances can be and have an impact on the highest TSCS that you can get. It's fascinating.
Also, the
thing is, I think that also contributes. I think that also contributes to why they will have those dips, is because they don't speak the same language, or because they've come from a different scene. Like a French player doesn't play the same as a Swedish player type thing. It can be that like when they're under pressure, they're going to default to what they grew up playing, or the region they grew up playing, and that might be why they struggle so much at the moment when they're placed under the pressure. So, I mean, FaZe is a lovely experiment. If they can continue to make this team work, I think it's gonna It's good. It's going to make a lot of teams very, very scared about future results.
Yeah, also something to just mention. I mean, Olaf had never played in an English team before, so it's actually quite a feet that within just a few weeks he's already functioning very well within the team system. So I think that's really impressive. The other thing I think maybe to also in terms of players, just to single out there, I think Twists had a really amazing tournament overall for Liquid.
Actually, I was going to say, man, he really surprised me. Like everyone said, like it's just on land he's going to be average, and then he has these rounds were like, oh my goodness, who is this guy? Like so crisp, clean, like in the moment. This is brilliant, really nice.
He did some nice work there on A site from Pits on Inferno in the maps that they played versus the other teams that weren't FaZe. I mean, he seemed to just have that site on lockdown. Unfortunately, FaZe, it almost feels like, I mean, you look at Niko's performance, I think he ended with a 1.7 rating as the MVP of the tournament, which is insane. Like, I mean, that's
he had 0.99 kills per round across the entire tournament.
Jeez, I mean, that's like this local guy Gambit. I mean, it's just like it's insane. How do they do this?
Gambit, also known as Apocalypse.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know his other nicks. He's just a hero.
But I mean, that one highlight on Inferno when he was on B site and got those, essentially got 3 1-taps in the space of re-peaking, each person twice. It was like Peaks misses the shot, Peaks 1-tap. Peaks misses the shot, Peaks 1-taps kind of thing. It's
not even that the peaking. I know his peaking was good. I know what you mean, but just in terms of, I watched him play a game on Nuke. He was very, very smart. Very smart. Some really clever moves consistently. So that's, I think, when like the guy's made it. Like he can do those insane shots, highlight reels, and just do these really sneaky, smart plays consistently. Wicked.
Yeah. I mean, I think between he and Simple, they might be the 2 most naturally talented players to ever pick up CS:GO. It's insanity what those kids can do in a tournament, or I mean, in a server. It's I don't know.
And make it look easy.
You just sit there, and you just bask in the glory of what this guy's going to be able to pull off in this game.
Also, it's like Niko's that he's like an Overwatch hero. He pushes E and his ultimate gets unleashed and everybody around him just dies. It's amazing.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, the guy's just on another level to most players. And I think if he continues that level of performance, definitely in a running for the HLTV Player of the Year. I mean, Simple's another guy who could probably be in for a Cold Zero device or also there. But, it's interesting. We haven't had like a couple of years ago where Olaf Master was clearly the best player in the year, and that was just pretty much it, no argument. This year, it's definitely a little bit more open because guys haven't really sustained that level of performance through the whole year.
I think your front running options at this point would be for Niko and Cold Zero. Device, I think, has had too many issues throughout the year. And they haven't won a tournament or made a final since April. So there's that. I mean, as well as Simple as playing, Navi needs results. Like, you can't be the best player in the world if your team's going out in groups all the time. So that needs to change soon. And I think Simple on a better team or a team that was, playing better, that would be, I would pay serious money to watch Simple versus Niko with teams that were equally as good as one another. Have those two go at each other.
That could be interesting.
That is like, that is going to
watch,
be mental when Navi figures that out.
Although what would be delicious from a political point of view would be minus Guardian plus Simple, just to fuck with everybody.
Do it.
No, that would be cheating.
See what happens.
That would be cheating.
It's like all the best players, they're ours now. We will gather them together. KSG, I won't rub my beard if I'm reading chat. What I'll rather do is I'll blink twice if I need somebody to come save me. So I'll do that. Then also for Casimir, thoughts on the Immortals drama. We actually covered that last week, the episode with GMAX. You can go and have a look at that. Definitely not going to revisit that territory. Then we got Eleague Premier again, continuing this Friday. Last week we had Group B, which was North Fnatic, Immortals, and Mousesports. North got through pretty cleanly. Fnatic also had a good time of it. They came in second. They ended up facing off against the Immortals for that second place, and they actually prevailed. Used all that Swedish firepower. Lekro I think a nice addition to their team. Mousesports, unfortunately, a bit disappointing, finishing last after winning ESG Mykonos. So that, I guess, casts a little bit of doubt over what they did at ESG. But in general, I think those are more or less the results we expected. And I think for Immortals, coming second would have been a little bit of a stretch, considering KNG wasn't playing and it was Kogu. I mean, the Kogu thing's exciting. Chris, you got to be excited about Kogu playing.
I think that's wicked because I've seen the boy play in the flesh and it was amazing.
He's
so this is going to happen.
Yeah, you saw Prime Kogu, didn't you?
I did. Actually, we were there when MRBR were the heroes on the scene. So it was great to watch. It's awesome to see this stuff. Like, brings back such good memories of the good old days.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think ELEAGUE Premier pretty much going to plan. Maybe you could argue that even without KNG, Immortals should have been able to do it against a fairly new look Fnatic, but I think that's probably one of the most clear-cut groups. You wouldn't have seen much difference. North clearly the best team there, and then I don't know, the other three sort of just around at this point with the troubles that they've had. I mean, Mousesports could have done better, but the thing with Mousesports is we don't really know what kind of level they're at. They beat Liquid in the final. Who else did they beat at ESG Mykonos?
They actually
SK.
They did not beat SK. It was Liquid.
Liquid beat SK.
Liquid disposed of the big opponents. Didn't Mousesports beat? Did they beat VP?
I think they beat VP, and didn't they beat Gambit?
Yes, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
actually, they do get props in making it to the final. Sorry, got that wrong.
I don't know. It's weird. It's like, I don't know. Like, some of the teams that Mouse has beaten, like Gambit looked good, and then looked underwhelming at the next event. Like,
oh.
I'm gonna get in my car and come slap you.
But I mean, Dozier and friends looked good at what was it? It is Dozier and friends. Okay, Dozier and slaves. How about that? That's I think.
Is
that's
it ex-slaves?
Six god and six slaves. They're really.
Like that. But yeah, I mean, they looked good at the one event, and then at the very next event, kind of like shaky. I think Mouse beats them there. Mouse looks good at ESG, and now looks shaky here. So I think, I mean, there's been some other people that have said that like the player breaks seem to cause a massive like fluctuation in the scene, in that like everybody takes a month off, and then when it comes back, it just feels like a whole bunch of pub matches going on because nobody really knows exactly where they stand, and everything's topsy-turvy. So I think one more event and we should have a better idea of where it is. Liquid's looking good. Mouse, I think they've won a big event, but I can't see them challenging the top teams further on.
Quite so, old boy. Indubitably. We'll use some big words there because it's getting late at night. Need to use the big words. Granny Casimir's getting tired, so the more confused his brain gets, the better it is. So for ELEAGUE Premier, what will be coming up? Let me actually switch to the browser view for everybody here. Group C is coming up this Friday and Saturday. I love watching ELEAGUE. Best production in the game. They're amazing. We've got Cloud9, NIP, Virtus Pro, Envious, and looking at that, I'd say Cloud9, NIP pretty much a lock to make it through. What do you guys think?
That's an awesome game, actually. I think they're quite evenly based teams at the moment. It'll be a really good, nice matchup for both of them, actually. I don't think they could have either asked for a better draw, so let's see what happens.
That's a funky-ass group, eh? Like, I don't know where NIP stands. They did well at Malmo, but Cloud9... I think Cloud9 is probably odds-on to make it out of that group in first place. I think NIP is best placed on recent form, but if Envy can ever figure out what LAN is and maybe play there, I think they have a chance. VP, I can't see them making it out of groups there.
Yeah. Such a shame. Such a shame. I do hope NIP
Luckily,
lose.
we've got you recorded, so we can hold you against that when VP go through first, and then that
dude, I already got absolutely wrecked last week when I was like, "There's no way Astralis is not getting out. It's not a chance, mate."
Rip. So I just got cut off while saying I hope NIP loses, and then like the internet lost their minds. Everybody hates me. I'm sorry, guys. What I was gonna say is I hope NIP loses so that I can give Burning Red shit. Basically, the biggest NIP fan in the world. That's the only reason.
He's coming around. Let's give Burning Red some props. He is coming around. If you speak to him now, he will tell you Yeah, Nip is pretty shit. Like, he'll at least admit it now.
Well, I think they're not as shit as they were. The younger players definitely have helped them a little bit. They looked a lot better in recent times. So, yeah, let's. I'm cautiously optimistic, but this is what they always do. New players look good for a couple of months, get shat on. So let's hope that pattern is not going to repeat itself now that they've made a change of 2 instead of just 1 player. I think that might be the key factor there. Then the next thing to also look at is we've got ESEA Global Challenge that's coming up. South Africa not going to be involved in there. I think we should all get out into the streets, dance, burn tires, put burning tires around each other's necks as well, because that's what we do in Africa. Okay, that's a little reference game there, but
I'm not ready for that.
okay.
Just wondering. No, we've got 2 South African teams here. We've got Flipside and we've got Mythic. What's going on?
What the hell, dude? Yeah.
I don't know these Flipside guys. Who are these clowns?
Nice
Markelov.
joke.
Who's that guy?
Markelov, what a tonsil. I mean, I heard he's shit. He's like 12 years old. Anyway. The names that we got there. Space Soldiers, Flipside, probably the 2 best teams. They're Kingwin, also definitely in the running. They got God Michu. So I'd say probably between those 3 teams who's going to win. I don't think it's a tremendously exciting lane because Bravado's not there, guys. Let's face it.
I hope the Space Monkeys win, man.
The Space Monkeys, yeah. I think Space Soldiers could. I mean, they've got these hacks known as Xantaras. In fact, let me quickly click on Xantaras' name.
Actually,
yeah. Okay.
For reasons.
Would you mind telling us about your friend Xantaras a little bit?
No, I can't really tell you much. It's not fun for me anymore. I mean, I've been seeing a therapist for nearly a year now. It's just not helping.
Did you get some topical ointment to put on those friction burns?
Yeah. On the burns, yeah, it's quite rough. Again, like we don't talk about it. My therapist's not here, so we can't chat. Sorry.
Okay, well, guys, definitely check out the Mount Land. I think we give it a little bit of viewership. It's good that it grows because we definitely want a South African team to get there from season 26, which is of course starting on Sunday. So. Last thing to talk about, I think, is the ESL Africa final group stage day, which is on Thursday night from 6:45. You can check myself and Profeci will be on there. APOC will be on the North African stream. It will be DC versus Big 5 on that stream. Is that the 7 o'clock game, Chris?
I'm not even sure. I just rock up and wait to play every night.
Okay, well, we can probably quickly verify that. I shouldn't ask questions.
Thanks. I'll let my team know when you've given me the info on a live show. This is like a nice feed of information.
Information. We live to serve you information there, Uncle Chris. So let's actually look at what the times are. Okay, you're on for the late shift. So unfortunately, you're not going to get your beauty sleep there, man. And I know how bad you need it.
Late for the bullies is like late for late. Oh well. What was Casimir's question? He keeps asking about this question. I didn't even see the original
question. We'll go back.
Question.
Don't worry. I've still got it. I actually know how to scroll up. It's an amazing elusive art. But
I can't do that.
I can
do that.
Okay, so the big game is Energy Esports versus Bravado. That's really about Energy securing their spot there and also about Bravado securing their absolute dominance over the season. Energy actually won Season 1's group stage before losing in the final to BVD. BVD definitely going to want to close it out without losing a single map this time around. So I think that's a good one. That's 7 o'clock. And then also the next game at 9:30 on the ESL Africa CSGO Twitch channel or the Facebook page would be Generation Digital versus Limitless.gg. That's the North African clash, and I definitely want to watch Limitless because they definitely look like the strongest of the North African teams. So that's definitely one to watch. If you go over to the North African stream, which is on ESL_CSGOB on Twitch, that will be the first game will be Fractals versus No Relation team. Not really a lot to play for there for those guys, so I definitely say stick around for the Energy Provider game rather. And if you do want to watch APOC, yeah, also better known as Gambit and the DC boys taking the fight to Big 5, then you can go over to the North African stream and watch the Big 5 versus Energy clash. So, I mean, Energy. When I say Big 5 versus DC, I should not read things while I'm talking. Anyway, Big 5 versus DC is happening at 9:30. So, definitely lots to look forward to there. We'll quickly recap on that question, which I think we'll do. I just got called Dad. Casimir, I thought Anthrax was your esports dad. What happened to that? I'm going to tell Barry that you said this. I think Barry would be absolutely incensed at that. So, question we got. He says something I've always had grief with. How is it that peeps move around so much and are so accurate? Yes, I understand it's just practicing movement, but the amount they move is ridiculous. Good example is somebody like Maniac. Should I read that again?
Maniac is a very, very bad player to watch, because if you look at how his stats work, they sort of like insane and then bad, and then insane and then bad. Like, that's the nature of an entry. They also have done insane amounts of hours just practicing the what is it, the like where they're counter strafing, where they're basically running and then they tap and then they shoot in that half a second that they fire.
I will tell you something interesting about the counter strafing, and what I've discovered recently is that we recently just upgraded to the Corsair K70 rapid fire keyboards. And the weird thing is that the key actuates when you don't even press the key down for key down.
Yeah.
It's like 0.5 millimeter, and then it actually actuates. So if you just lightly tapping your keys, they still perform their function, which is crazy. And surprisingly to me, obviously having played a long time, even on a mechanical keyboard, it makes a huge amount of difference. And I think it's almost got to that stage where it's a little bit like 1.6, where you could run across, stop, shoot, and carry on running. And in the game, if you're playing against an enemy, it almost looks like he didn't stop on your client side. So I think it's almost got to that where the keyboards are so accurate in terms of their rapid fire that you could do that little tiny counter strafe, shoot, and carry on running, and it looks like they're running. So especially on like a 1-tap or 2-tap, and keep on moving. So I think that might be quite deceptive, particularly to players on 60 hertz or players without mechanical keyboards. It can look like wizardry, because I know when I've swapped back to a non-mechanical, it almost feels like you gliding and sliding all over the place. You can't step out of the corner and stop dead. And there's that much of a difference in the actual hardware. So that's just an interesting note from my side.
And you're also watching them on LAN, which is a bit of a different thing, because they only got 5 ping. So there's no like the guys traveling and then very, very smooth. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also the netcode aspect of the game as well is also part of it. I mean, if you are on low ping and another guy's on high ping, then he seems like an unhittable god at times. As much as people will tell you low ping is great, when there's about a 60-70 difference, it's actually like, he didn't stop, I didn't see him, I died. You know,
It makes a huge difference.
It's the way the netcode works in CS. I don't think Source Engine's netcode is by any means the best. I definitely feel like they could improve on that, because I mean, how many times have you taken a shot and run away from the corner only to, oh wait, actually you died? You know,
that pullback mechanism, and that's a great indicator of just how far away the game thinks you are versus where you actually thought you were on the client server side. And that's, I mean, that's just a TCP/IP thing that we can't really get around, right? Unless all of you come and join us on Vox. Vox sponsors hashtag.
Oh,
Anyway, but you know what I mean. It's just a consequence of the game being a game played online, and the ping issues that you're going to suffer until you're all in the same room on LAN on the same PCs. You're not really going to get rid of that. It's just something you're going to have to learn to deal with.
Yeah, although I have broken a few peripherals because of that shit, so it drives me crazy. I mean, you could ask Sean when we play. It's by the way, Chris, in the grand old tradition of doing CS Go Deeper, we're going to go play some CS after this, right?
I'm ready.
Oh, cool. Well, that's good. Maybe we'll stream a little bit of that.
I lost my global on a 50 bomb. I got a 50 bomb and we lost. And I lost global, and then I cried.
And then
twice.
You cried. Salty tears. Okay, well, I think we'll end it there on Apox salty tears. Any final words or shout outs?
Sure, Shaz. If you beat us, you can sign.
I'm looking forward to Rage. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, just apart from the fact that we have ESL and VS at the same event, which is a bit silly, but I think it's going to be, yeah, it is what it is. I think it's going to be a great weekend for everybody that does rock up. For those that are able to meet Pansy and Moses, I think any team that doesn't at least speak to Moses about certain aspects of how to run a team, you guys will be stupid.
Missed opportunity.
The guy is down here. If you can grab him for even 5 minutes, I'm pretty certain he will be happy to talk to you guys. So, when they come down, I think do your utmost best to speak to guys like Pansy and Moses, because they have I mean, it's not the fact that they've necessarily played recently, but they speak to all the pros. They know how those teams run. You can get tips on how to get better from the guys that have played at the, that speak to the elite level players on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely. APOC, any final things from you, Mr. Jaformbit?
Not really. I think we've covered quite enough for the day. But I'm just preparing my body and my soul for these MMs.
Okay, yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. So this has been CSGO Deeper, sponsored by Aperture PC. Thanks for joining us, guys. I think we'll probably take a couple minutes break and then restart the stream with a little bit of MM. So you can maybe join us for a little bit of that. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. We'll be back next week, Tuesday night, 8 p.m. with more CSGO analysis and opinions and pronunciations and banter. See you guys. Cheers.